Hello everybody. Okay, welcome to the recorded version of the rules, regulations, and the athlete checklist for the Tempe Draft Legal Challenge. It is an official USA Triathlon F1 Youth and Junior Draft Legal event. It's going to be in the middle of the Arizona Kids Triathlon, a really exciting event for youth and junior triathlon. So let's go ahead and get through this as quick as we can. Alright, so race overview. This is going to be the first ever youth and junior draft legal triathlon in the state of Arizona. Very exciting to finally get one of these guys here. We've been working on it for a little bit, and we're able to partner up with Kids Triathlon Inc. and the Arizona Kids Triathlon that they put on down at Kiwanis Park. Going to be really exciting. Now that triathlon is going to be a collegiate sport for women, that varsity level racing will be draft legal, so this is something that a lot of young women need to learn about, and they're going to need to learn it quickly if they are wanting to be eligible for the triathlons that are the triathlon scholarships that are going to start coming down the pipe here pretty quickly. So again, this is an official USA Triathlon race. It is part of the Southwest Region's F1 series, so I believe we have 5 or 6 races with a championship race in there also. So very exciting. So eligibility, athletes must be race age of 12 to 18, somewhere in that range. Race age, as decided by USA Triathlon, is their age as of December 31st of this year. So as long as they are turning 12 by December 31st, they are considered to be eligible. Athletes must meet one of the following criteria below. They must be a current member of a USA Triathlon high performance team. They must attend the Youth and Junior Elite Identification Camp that we are hosting out here in Tempe March 10th through the 14th, or they must be approved by the race director, who is me. So if there are any questions as to the eligibility of this, my contact info is going to be at the very end. Go ahead and check that out and shoot me an email, and we'll figure out exactly where the eligibility is. This is primarily a safety issue with draft legal racing. The bikes are absolutely within close proximity of each other. You get with some of the more elite athletes that are going to be coming down here with the youth and juniors, they're going to be riding at 22, 23, 24, maybe even 25 miles an hour in a group. They have to know what they're doing. So we're putting on this camp to make sure that anybody who's wanting to get into this, because this is the intro level to draft legal racing, but we need to ensure the safety of the athletes that are coming from out of town, and there's a rumor floating around that we actually have somebody coming from out of the country, so this has the potential of turning into an international race. Alright, so the camp itself, you got the website right there, springtriathloncamp.com, March 10th through the 14th in Tempe, Arizona. The Breakthrough Youth and Junior USA Triathlon High Performance Team, is that coaching staff, which I'm the team director of, is going to be putting on this camp. It's Monday through Friday. Monday through Thursday are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Friday is about 7:30 to about noon with a race simulation going on. Basically what we're going to do is teach you everything that you need to know. We're going to teach your kids everything they need to know to successfully and safely complete this race. Alright, so here's a weekend overview. Saturday, March 15th at 4 p.m. there is a pre-race meeting for all F1 participants. It's at the big tent in the expo area. This meeting on Saturday is not 100% mandatory. Okay, it is highly, highly, highly recommended. If you have never done a draft legal triathlon, come to this meeting. Okay, that will give us an opportunity to go through the entire set of rules, regulations. We'll be able to look at your equipment. We'll be able to tell you what, if anything, needs to be changed and how it needs to be changed. So it is completely optional on Saturday, but if you have not done this type of racing, I can't stress highly enough, you need to come to this meeting. On Sunday, March 16th, that's when we're kicking off the race. 8:15 a.m. sharp, we're starting the mandatory pre-race meeting for all F1 participants. It's going to be in the big tent in the expo area. This race is mandatory. If you're not here for the race, you won't race. It's not optional. It's not negotiable. That's set up by USA Triathlon. If you're late, that's going to create a serious problem. So you need to make sure you're there by 8:15. Now, that being said, the rest of this timeline is a somewhat fluid timeline. We are putting this draft legal race into the middle of the 2 youth races that are going on with the Arizona Kids Triathlon. So the race will start no earlier than 9:30 a.m. There is a potential it could get pushed back 5, 10, 15 minutes depending on the number of kids in the race. chances are it's going to kick off right at 9:30. So we're going to go with this timeline that we have written right here. At 8:15 we're going to have the pre-race meeting. We'll make sure everybody has everything they need to know. We'll get the body marking done. We'll get rolling. Basically walk everybody over in one big group to the check-in position, which is right in front of transition. Transition is going to open at 9 o'clock. There's a check-in procedure which we're going to go through here shortly. Transition is going to close at 9:20. At 9:20 the pool will open up for swim warm-ups. The course should be set up at that point. Basically pulling all the lane lines out. We'll get into that with the swim course. You're going to get about 5 to 10 minutes worth of swim warm-up. At 9:30 we're going to kick off the race. So the goal is by about 9:25 the athletes need to be near the starter table so we can do the call down, get everybody lined up and out off the start line and into the water. So 9:30 is our tentative start time. It could go maybe 10 or 15 minutes later. It will not go earlier than 9:30 a.m. As soon as the race is over, the athletes need to obviously catch their breath and get themselves together, get back into transition, which will be moved slightly to towards the curb to allow for the second race with the Arizona Kids Triathlon to go. You're going to need to come back and get your stuff quickly. We're going to aim at doing our award ceremony about 10:45. That again is dependent on the timer and how quickly we can get the results back in. So here's the venue. Kiwanis Park is the name of the big park. The Kiwanis Wave Pool is the name of the facility that the pool that we are using. There's your address. North is facing to the right, so you can see the general course area. The green area right here is the expo area. That is where the meetings are going to take place. You can see that there's the pool right here, transition. The blue lines are the bike course, red line is the run course, finish line is down here in this big open field, and then of course the penalty box down here, which hopefully nobody will be in. Alright, so race day check-in. Once we get done with the pre-race meeting, we'll start checking off as much of this as we can. Basically going to walk everybody over to transition, get you lined up. Basically what's going to happen is your uniform, your race numbers, your helmet, and your bicycle are all going to be inspected by the person who is checking people in. If there is an illegal part of the bike, part of the helmet, part of the uniform, or something like that, we will do what we can do to help you fix it. But at the end of the day, it is incumbent upon each athlete to understand what they need in terms of a helmet, uniform, race numbers, and a bike before they show up to the race. So I don't think we're going to have any extra helmets or uniforms or bikes laying around to help people out. We will have some mechanics available if we need to adjust something very easily. So again, make sure you follow through this entire video. It's going to lay it all out for you. And then again, the Saturday night meeting and then the Sunday morning mandatory meeting is all there specifically to help you make sure that your equipment is correct. So all extra gear that you bring, transition bag and anything else, all of that has to be removed from transition and placed in a designated spot. All you're allowed to have in transition is the bike, the helmet, sunglasses, shoes, socks if you really want them, but I wouldn't do that. And that's it. There's no towels, no bags, no marking your transition spot, etc. We'll get into this. So race day check-in, what you need to bring with you: your helmet's going to be on your head, uniform obviously is going to be on your body, race numbers need to be applied either at the race meeting or as we're checking you in depending on time, and then the bike with the numbers that are fixed in the appropriate location. So looking at the helmet, aero helmets are not legal. If you show up with an aero helmet, you will not race. I cannot make that any more simple than that. There will be no exceptions. You will not race. You will not be refunded your money. If we can get you into the next race, we will. You need to have a traditional road helmet. There's an example of one over there on the left. You cannot race in an aero helmet under any circumstances. So make sure you have the right helmet. Bicycles. The bike on the left is the traditional road bike frame. That is legal. The bicycle on the right is the time trial or triathlon bike. That is illegal. If you show up with a time trial bike, you will not race under any circumstances. It does not matter to me how far you traveled, how much money you've spent. Do not come with a time trial bike. You need to have a road bike. That's the one that's over on the left of the slide. Alright, so let's get more into the bicycles. There's some key parts of this that we need to know and understand. So let's start over here on the left and we'll work our way around clockwise. So only traditional drop style handlebars and brake levers are allowed. So that's the bars that you're seeing right here with the traditional brake levers. If you have aero bars that are one piece, or the more traditional time trial bars, that is not legal. You will not be allowed to race. The aero bars, you can use clip-on aero bars if you really feel that you have to. This course isn't really set up to do that, and it's not going to make a huge advantage for you, but again, your choice. None of the breakthrough athletes or the Formula Endurance athletes are in general allowed to use these aero bars. They're just not necessary until they get to an international level of competition. So the clip-on aero bars cannot extend beyond the brake levers of the handlebars, right? So here's your brake lever right there. We'll basically take a board, we'll put it right up there. If the aero bars hit it, the aero bars come off. All right, it's very simple. We'll have the tools there to take them off. It's very easy to do. The ends of both bars have to be securely capped with bar end plugs. If you don't have them, you won't race. It's a safety issue. We will try to get some extra ones out there, but just make sure that your bike is squared away. Next one is the race numbers, right? We're going to have at least one set of race numbers. It's either going to go on the top tube. Hopefully we'll end up with two. We'll end up with one on the seat post and one on the top tube. Those need to be applied appropriately. And then the wheel that is allowed, the wheels have to have a minimum of 16 spokes, and the wheels themselves have to be the same dimension, meaning 700C wheel, 700C wheel, 650, 650. You can't have a 700 in the back and a 650 in the front. All right. All right, uniforms. So here's a picture of what we got going on here. The one-piece uniforms with the zipper in the back is the traditional draft legal style. We will be somewhat lenient with this at this F1, as long as the uniform can, when you pull it down, cover your abdomen. I'm okay with that. We're not racing. The men are not going to be racing in tri-shorts and a top that shows your midriff, right? Women are not racing in a two-piece suit. It's just not going to happen. It's against the rules. All right, so here's what we got. We have the decals, which we will not have. We'll be writing the numbers on. We'll put them on your left arm and your right arm appropriately. If you want to do this beforehand on your own, you're more than welcome to. Just make sure you get it in the right spot. A good, solid Sharpie marker is going to do it for you. So the one-piece uniform is what we're going to need. The women's one-piece swimsuit is acceptable. For this event, if we have a zipper in the front, which is a more easily accessible suit for the general public, it needs to remain zipped the entire time. If the zipper is in the back, they're more than welcome to unzip it. But again, if the zipper is in the front, it has to be zipped the entire race. And then again, the race number is down there on the calves. Alright, so a little more on the aero bars. Alright, so on the left-hand side of this, you see the clip-on aero bars. Those are legal if you want to use them, with the following, asterisk next to it. They have to have the bar and plugs, and it has to have a factory bridge. Right? It's not something where the days of taping popsicle sticks or a brake lever or a tire lever to the front of the bars and calling it bridged is no longer working. And if you take this to an Elite Cup or to Nationals, they're simply going to pull them off the bike for you and say go on your way. Alright, so it needs to have a factory bridge that comes with the set of clip-on aero bars. Alright, bar end shifters are a no-go. We look over here at the right, we got the integrated piece, we have the more traditional tri-bars. Those are not legal. Alright, if your bike has those, you will not race. Under any circumstances, you will not get into this F1 race. I will not refund your money. I will try to push you down to the next race. That's the 12 to 15-year-old non-drafting race. If we can do that, great. If not, you're out of luck. We're putting this out at least 2 weeks ahead of time. You guys need to watch this video. If you have questions, you need to contact me and ask me. You need to come to the meeting or meetings to have all your questions answered. So again, time trial bike is a no-go. You cannot use aero bars that do or do not have aero or bar end shifters that are the traditional aero bars like you see on the right hand of this slide. Alright, so checking out the wheels, a little more on that. The two sets of wheels on the left, so the traditional alloy wheels or the traditional carbon wheels, those are completely acceptable. They need to be 80 millimeters or less in depth. Disc wheels, they're a no-go. If you show up with the disc, you will not ride the disc. If you can find another wheel, awesome. If not, you're not racing. The 3-spoke wheel, that's a no-go. Every wheel has to have at least 16 spokes total, and again, the dimensions have to be the same. They both have to be 700 or 650. All right. Okay, transition overview. Race numbers, they're going to be randomly assigned as basically as people register. We're going to give them a number 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way up through. The rack locations, those are assigned. Alright, so when we have the transition set up, you will have an assigned spot. With transition 1, you're going to start with the bikes racked so that the seat is facing into transition. Right, so your handlebars and your seat, as if you are riding it, are facing into transition. You need to keep all excess gear, meaning running shoes, a hat, a visor, whatever it is, needs to be behind the front wheel and underneath your bicycle. All right, and that basically is pretty self-explanatory. Once you put the bike into transition, once you go through the check-in, the bike cannot leave transition. All right, until the race starts. If you have to go in and take the bicycle out, you're not going to be allowed to race. So whatever adjustments you need to make to the bicycle, you either need to do it before you get into transition, or you're going to have one of the official bike tech guys from Giant Scottsdale come out and get in there and try to help you out. When you come back into T2, you are going to rack the bike with the seat and the handlebars facing out of transition. All right, so depending on the type of transition racks we're able to get, we're aiming for the really cool low profile wood ones, but that's to be determined. That's our best case scenario. Worst case scenario is we're going to have the traditional bike racks, which are perfectly fine. If we have the traditional bike racks, you need to rack it by both the handlebars or the brake levers or by the seat post with the front of the bike facing out of transition. Okay, and if we have the wood ones, the front wheel or the rear wheel more likely needs to get into the appropriate slot in the transition rack to get your bike facing out of transition. Another key point of this, whether it is T1 or whether it's T2, all used equipment has to be discarded into the bin or the box that will be provided for you. If something is not fully into that bin or box, that is a penalty. That's going to end up being a penalty that you're going to have to see and on the penalty board and serve in the penalty box. Alright, so more on penalties coming up. Alright, so basically if we have a standard transition rack, this is pretty much what the setup's going to look like. The bicycle is hung by the seat. The seat and the handlebars are facing into transition. The red basket you see is where any used equipment must go, so swim cap, goggles, bike helmet, etc. And then the running shoes behind the front wheel. You can see where if we extended a line right here, those are behind it and more or less either next to or behind, or next to or under the bike. Alright, so swim course. Once you get checked in to transition, you need to get over to the pool quickly. You're going to go ahead and line up at the chip/timing table. That's where we're going to give you the swim cap. That's where we're going to give you the timing chip. Once you've received them, you cannot go back into transition. Alright, so once you leave transition, you're out of transition. Alright, so line up at the chip timing table. You're going to get your swim cap, get your timing chip, get in the pool, get warmed up. We'll get you all out of the pool in time to get you guys lined up. We'll do a quick athlete call down, which is one of the cool features about this race. You guys get to pick your own spot, and then we're going to do essentially a beach start on the Horn Blast. It's going to be a running entry into the pool. Alright, so if we take a look at the swim course itself right here, this is a pretty big pool. I believe we're about 150 yards from buoy number, let's say, buoy 1 right here back to buoy 4. Alright, so we got a good solid swim course. What we're going to do is we're going to have a start line set up right here. It's going to hold up to about 40 athletes. Basically, we're going to send you off. It's going to be a mad dash to buoy number 1, left-hand turn over to buoy 2, left-hand turn, and out the door. So if we end up going 1 lap, it's out the door. If it's 2 laps, you're going to actually have to exit the pool, run around buoy number 3 and around buoy number 4. Buoy number 4 will be placed after the race starts. You're not going to have to navigate around that. The flooring right here that we are going to have you run on is actually slip resistant, where if we have you run through the water, that is a heck of a lot more slippery. So we'll get more into this once the start list is finalized. Alright, so transition 1, again, caps and goggles have to go inside the bin or the box, or else that is a penalty. You may not ride your bike in transition when you are going through transition 1, while you're transitioning from the swim to the bike. Alright, more on that in a second. Here's the big rule. Alright, this one is a very big thing. Your helmet must be on and buckled prior to touching the bicycle. If you touch the bike in any way, shape, or form prior to having your helmet on and buckled, that's going to be a penalty. Alright, the mount line, that's going to be located just outside of transition. We'll go through this diagram here quickly. You must have 1 foot on the ground past the mount line before mounting the bike. If you do not have that, it is a mounting penalty, which again, we'll get into the penalties later. So here's the transition area, the pool. Basically, we're going to swim something like this. We're going to exit out the door. There's going to be a carpeted walkway right here. You're not going to have to run on wet tile. Here, we're out onto the sidewalk. This is going to be roped off for you. You're going to cut through, again, roped off, cut through the parking lot, out onto the street and into transition. Alright, so you're going to have the mount line, you'll have transition, you'll have a dismount line. Depending on the number of athletes, we're either going to have 1 long row of bicycles. If the transition racks, or we might end up with 1 on either side of the road. We'll make that decision as we get closer to the race, and we'll brief you about that during the mandatory pre-race meeting. So you're going to come from the pool, you're going to cruise out here into transition, grab your bike, and you're out transition, making sure you have 1 foot on the ground past the mount line, out going onto the course. Right? When you're coming back in, it's a 2-loop bike course. You'll enter back in. You need to have 1 foot on the ground before the dismount line. Rack your bike, and then we're back out onto the run, which is on the sidewalk adjacent to the bike course. So pretty straightforward with the transition. So the bike course, 2-loop bike course. There will not be a warm-up on the bike course. Right? There will be a race. The really little kids are going to be going off first. That's their race first. Then we got the F1. Then the slightly older youth athletes go. So there are 2 U-turns per loop, 2 loops. There are some 90-degree turns, so this will require some bike handling and people to be aware of what's going on. This, again, safety issue, which is why we're requiring athletes who have basically not done a draft legal race or are not part of an HPT to come to the camp to make sure that they're taught how to do this and they have the ability to practice it. Wheel pit area. There will be a wheel pit if you want to drop off some well-marked wheels in the transition area. Basically, you're going to bring them up with you once you come to the check-in. We're going to probably put the wheel pit somewhere over in this area, either to the right or the left, whichever one's going to make more sense. Probably over here to the right, where we'll have the wheel pit. So it's either going to be on the outside of transition, or maybe somewhere down in this area. We just got to find the right spot for it. But there will be a wheel pit. The lap out or overlap rule is at the discretion of the race director and the head official, which is me. All those decisions are final. That is a safety issue. All right, my goal is to not have to lap anybody out, but if we have people who are getting passed by a pack of athletes riding at 24, 25 miles an hour, that is a safety issue. So if what the lap out rule is, basically if a rider is passed by the lead rider in the race, that's considered being overlapped, and that leads to a lap out. You're basically removed from the race. Your day is over. Okay, and that's the harsh reality of the draft legal racing, that if you get caught by the leaders, you're out of the race. Alright, so here's our bike course. We got some nifty little animations here. So here's our transition area down here in yellow. So we're going to come out of the pool, run along the sidewalk, through the parking lot, into transition. We got the bike 1 foot on the ground past the mount line, and here is basically what the bike course is going to look like. Alright, so now this turn, this 90-degree right-hand turn right here, this is going on to a major road. It is blocked off. It's closed to traffic, right? But this is a major road. People need to keep their wits about them. And I think we're going to jump in here to kind of like an office park area. Again, closed to business. So we got some more sharp turns. We come around here. Here's our second U-turn on this loop, and we're coming back through. All right. So the way that we're going to do this is each athlete needs to remain on the correct side of the road, which is as cars are driven in the United States. So that means on the right side of the road as you are riding your bicycle. So the rest of the bike course basically is going to look like this. Come back on. Now, here's the neat thing about this race. We are going to ride through transition to start the second loop. All right, so that's a far more advanced type of transitionary setup. The athletes that we've worked with previously and gone to quite a few different races around the country, everybody seems to really enjoy riding through transition. It's a pretty neat thing. So we will complete 2 loops. You will ride through transition to start the second loop. So the one thing that is definitely going to lead to a lap out is if an athlete is not out of the pool and onto their bicycle well before the lead pack is coming back into transition. That's when we're gonna definitely have to pull them out at that point. That's just a safety issue. All right, so the run course, 1 loop run course, it's about a mile long. We're going to aim at having an aid station set up somewhere at the beginning of the run course. It's a short enough race that we shouldn't really need an aid station, but we'll have some water set up out there for you guys. So here's the run course. Again, it's up onto the sidewalk right here, leaving transition. We'll probably get that aid station set up somewhere, along this area right here. Basically, you're going to run out the aid station. You're going to loop around the softball fields. You're going to make this little short divot right here and basically come back around on the other side of the softball fields. And then you got a little bit of a downhill cross-country style run that is going to take you down through the finish line. Now, the one thing to keep in mind right here, make sure everybody sees this, that's our penalty box. Alright, so we're going to have a whiteboard set up where we will write the numbers of any athlete that has a penalty. It is incumbent upon the athlete that is competing to look for that board and to check it to see if their number is on it. It is their responsibility. They have to stop, serve the penalty in the penalty box. We'll get more into that here in a bit. If you miss the penalty board and you have been assessed a penalty and you decide that you're not going to serve it, you're disqualified. Right? You won't have a finishing time, you won't have a finishing place. All right, so the penalty box is something that you need to keep an eye out for towards the end of the race. All right. So post-race, refreshments in the medical tent. That's going to be near the finish line and/or at the big expo tent. It's a pretty big tent. It gets some shade out there. It's a pretty good deal. Awards will be at the big tent, approximately 10:45. We're going to hand out awards to the top 3: youth males, youth females, junior male, junior female. So that's going to be the post-race. So let's get into the rules and penalties here real quick. All right. So pre-event penalties that you can get. You are not allowed to mark your transition space in any way, shape, or form. So no foot powder on the ground that you accidentally spilled. No putting a big chalk X next to it. No tying a balloon to the transition rack. You cannot in any way, shape, or form mark your space. You have to remember where it is. So that's going to get you a penalty. Tampering with another competitor's equipment, that's going to get you a penalty. All right. So if you're in transition and you're setting up and somebody else has their stuff set up in an incorrect position, there will be at least one official other than myself in transition that will be there to help you. Do not take it upon yourself to move another athlete's stuff. That can result in a penalty. All right, come get one of us. We'll move it. We'll help you move it. We'll tell you where to move it, whatever it may be. All right, other pre-event rules and penalties. Start position violation. So once you choose a position on the start line in the swim, that's it. There's no moving. All right. So if you choose a place on the far left, and you're like, oh, hold on, I want to go in the middle. Sorry, you're stuck on the far left. All right. So that can be one. Abusive language towards another competitor, towards an official, towards basically anybody. That's going to get you a penalty. All right. And hopefully we won't have that issue pop up. All right. So penalties and rules during the competition. So blocking or interfering with another athlete. All right, this is primarily a swim thing, but it can also go onto the bike and onto the run. You're not allowed to block. You're not allowed to interfere. It's not hockey. We're not forearm checking people into the walls while we're swimming. Not following the prescribed race course. That's obviously going to be a penalty. Here's a new one that a lot of athletes who haven't done the draft legal stuff are going to see. Using trees or posts or signs or anything like that to assist in maneuvering through the course, right? So if you have a right-hand turn on the run course, you cannot grab a hold of a sign to help wing yourself around it. That is a penalty, all right? And then, of course, we got the lap out or the overlap rule. All right, so two different types of penalties. We have a yellow card and we have a red card. The yellow card, we got two different options, right? So if we see you in transition and we have the ability to stop you, it's going to be a stop and go 10-second penalty. It's served, will not end up on the penalty board. Basically, we will tell you stop, freeze. As soon as you stop moving, the clock starts on your 10-second penalty. All right, so this is more of a warning than having to check out the penalty board. That does not mean that you can ignore your number on the penalty board. If you get a stop and go and then you come around on the wrong course and you still see your number on there, you better stop. Because if there could be a second penalty, there could be something different. All right, and we're going to do our best to make sure there's no mistakes made there. But if you see your number on that penalty board, you need to stop and serve that penalty. So it's basically going to be a 10-second penalty that's served in the penalty box. All right, red card. So any athlete who receives a red card can complete the race. All right, so a red card is going to, be something to the effect of, a very egregious penalty. All right, so blocking, obscene language, obscene gesture, something like that. Okay, that's going to get you disqualified from the race. You may go ahead and finish the race at that point, but you will not have a time or a position at the end. Any athletes that are lapped out, you have to leave the course immediately. It's a safety issue on the bicycle. There will not be an overlap rule with the bike onto the run. Alright, so the course is unique enough for us to set it up that way. Alright, so the penalty box. Again, penalties not served in the transition area. You need to serve them in the penalty box. The location is towards the end of the run, right before you go down the hill and make a right-hand turn into the finish. Your bib number is going to be written on the whiteboard for each penalty. If your number is written up there 3 times, that means you have accrued 3 penalties. Alright, so basically here's the procedure. We will have a race official in the penalty box. You need to identify yourself by number. That official is going to start the penalty clock, which is basically going to be a handheld stopwatch. You have to remain in the penalty box the entire time. Okay, you're allowed to stretch, you can run and play. You cannot run in place. You have to basically stand still. Okay, you cannot receive any outside assistance, right? You cannot be handed water, you cannot be handed food. Your coach or your parent or anybody else cannot talk to you while you're in there. If they are coaching you or giving you advice, the penalty time will start over. Okay, and we will sit there as long as we need to make sure that your penalty is assessed in the correct way. The official will let you know when it's fully served, then you're out the door running to the finish line. Alright, so some frequently asked questions, and we'll again cover all this stuff at the pre-race meeting on Saturday and then again at the mandatory one on Sunday. So the pre-race meeting on Sunday, absolutely mandatory. You don't come to it, you don't race. Very simple. Your torso has to be covered from the race start to finish. Alright, so we're going to be a little lenient with that. Guys are not going to be racing in Speedos and a tank top. You need to have a regular suit on, and it needs to do a pretty darn good job of covering your torso. Again, the athletes have to rack their bikes in the assigned position, facing the correct way. Time penalties will be assessed in the penalty box on the run course, or there'll be a stop and go in transition. Wetsuits, we're not going to have to deal with that. It's a pool swim, but anybody who gets into some more of this racing that's outdoors, any water temperature that is 68 degrees or warmer, wetsuits are illegal in draft legal racing. In the swim, here's the big one. The athletes have to move forward, not sideways, forward with their first step or two with the swim start. Alright, so positioning and choosing your spot with the swim start, with the call down, that's important. Alright, so blocking or interfering with the forward progress of another competitor is not allowed. That's going to be primarily a swimming issue. Athletes that are lapped out or overtaken on the bike or the run course may be withdrawn from competition at my discretion. It's a safety issue. Helmets must meet the established CPSC standards, and labeling means there's a sticker inside the helmet. Again, if you're not sure, come on Saturday so we can check out the helmet, make sure it's good. If the helmet doesn't have the sticker on Sunday morning, you have however many minutes are left to find the correct helmet. Okay, helmet chin straps, they have to be buckled at all times when touching the bicycle. Alright, if an athlete touches the bike without the helmet on and buckled, there will be a penalty. If this is something that is repetitive, we're simply going to disqualify you. Again, aero helmets are not allowed. The lead official, which is me, determines what the aero helmet is. So again, if you have questions on it, shoot me an email. My contact info is coming up. Send me pictures, send me a link to it, and we'll check it out. And we'll make sure that you're good to go. Disc wheels, the tri-spokes, not eligible for racing, and it's got to have at least the 16 spokes. Alright, last 2 frequently asked questions. I think all equipment must be placed in the athlete's individual bin after use. Unsportsmanlike conduct, including inappropriate language directed at fellow competitors, volunteers, or officials, may result in disqualification. You're definitely going to get a penalty for it. We might just toss you right there. One more page. So bicycles, you got to have the following. It's got to have the traditional triangular road frame. The wheels have to have at least 16 spokes and equal in dimension, either both 650s or both 700s. Handlebars have to be the traditional drop style with bar end plugs. The clip-on aero bars cannot extend beyond the brake levers. the foremost line of the brake levers, and they must be bridged with a factory bridge. All right, so that's what it comes with. All right, taping a tire lever to it and calling it a bridge, that's not going to work anymore. And again, no bar end shifters are allowed. We will not have race belts or bibs. Your numbers are going to be on your arms and on your calves and on your bicycle and on your helmet. All right, so there will be no race bib, no race number thing, race belt. It's going to be written on there with marker. And last one is no towels or water buckets are going to be allowed in transition. All right, so basically you get the bicycle, the helmet, cycling shoes, running shoes, a hat and visor if you choose, and sunglasses if you choose. Other than that, you don't need anything in there. All right, so any questions that anybody has about this? This is my contact info right here, ryan@bttriathlon.org. Go ahead and shoot me an email. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. We'll make sure that your equipment is straight and good to go. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. If not, I look forward to seeing you on March 15th and or definitely the 16th and having some good racing taking place in Arizona. All right, everybody, take care.